Hope it's not on my end.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Carnivorous Grama Speaks Women of Wisdom series. I am super excited to have with me tonight Sherry Reef. I'll let her say her own last name. And she is the carnivore mommy. We have been having a little bit of kind of issues with our internet. I see that she's spinning. So as soon as we get her back in, I will let her introduce herself. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get my scripture together and we will read the scripture that is for the Women of Wisdom series. So give me 1 second while I pull that up. The scripture is Proverbs 14 and 1. Proverbs 14 and 1. And it says, this is the New King James Version. It says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. And I always love to read this scripture in relation to my Women of Wisdom series in particular, because I feel like women who are making a choice of a proper human diet for themselves and for their families. It's just absolutely incredible that we're building our physical houses and we're building our families up. So, welcome back, Sherry. Hopefully you're able to hear me. I see you. You're looking a little bit glitchy over there. So hopefully we're going to be able to get this situation under control. Can you hear me?
Oops. Uh,
Oh no. We were having a little bit of trouble backstage with our internet glitching. So let's see if we can get Sherry. I'm going to check my settings as well, just make sure that my audio is still working properly. It looks good on my side. And yeah, it looks like she's having some technical difficulty. So in the meantime, let's just talk a little bit about oh, yeah, she's going to go and come back in. So hopefully we're going to get this together. And, if not, we can always reschedule if we absolutely have to. So Sherry and I met at in Chicago at the Chicago meetup it was back when the carnivore diet documentary was still being called the Carnivore Diet Documentary before it had an actual name of Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. We met at that meetup, and it was really cool to meet her. She has a great story as well, and so I'm hoping that we'll get to tell it today. We'll see if she's able to make it back in. So that Chicago meetup was absolutely incredible. We had an amazing time there. And hey, Sandra. So hopefully we're going to be able to get Sherry back in here. She's having some technical difficulties. Hopefully all is well with you, Sandra. We're so happy to see you here tonight. So yeah, she and I got a chance to meet, and of course we had Carrie and Adam there. And we also had Dr. Tony Hampton, who is absolutely amazing. Hey, Sherry, can you hear?
so
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think my Wi-Fi was the one that was, even though it said like everything was fine, I was like, something's goofy. So I just hotspotted to my phone.
Okay.
And my husband's gonna like try and redo, I'm like, can you just try and reset the Wi-Fi? I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I've got great phone capability, so I'm just gonna
Okay.
hotspot to get us through this. It should be fine. So sorry about that. I told
Awesome.
you, technology hates me.
Well, it sometimes it hates us all. So I see that Sandra's here. She's saying hello. And I did post a
Hello.
link in the description to your channel, and apparently that link is not working. So I'll make sure that I fix that
Okay.
in the description box and make sure that your link is absolutely correct. So Sherry,
Awesome.
can you just please go
Yes.
ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and where you're from?
Yes. So my name is Sherry Reef, and I am from a small city in Wisconsin, in between Door County and Green Bay. So we lived in Green Bay for 20 plus years. And we've been in this little city right off Lake Michigan for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in July. And I have 8 children and 8 chickens and 1 puppy. We have homeschooled our kids from the beginning, and I have 3 left schooling. The rest have graduated and are on with their lives. 5 of them still remain at home. And then we have 1 married son and a daughter-in-law. Yeah, so that's me.
That is awesome. 8 kiddos. Wow. I have 4 and 11 grandkids. So that's a big family. So we can talk a lot about family and like,
Yeah.
Sandra says you have 1 chicken for each child.
You know what? So it's really funny. We were supposed to have 10, and 2 of them ended up being roosters because each of the kids were going to get to name a chicken. And then I got to name 2 chickens, but they ended up being roosters. And so then 2 of the kids ended up not having chickens because their chickens had to go to different homes because we can't have roosters here. So yeah, so it did work out, and to have 1 chicken for each child, it's like, oh, they match.
Yeah. So do you mainly have your chickens for eggs, or do you guys eat your chickens, or what do you do with your chickens?
Our chickens are the pets that poop breakfast.
Pets that
They
provide
are pets.
breakfast.
That's right. They are pets. They are not food. They are spoiled. They are well loved. We've had them since they were day old. Well, 3 of them we didn't get as day old chicks. They replaced 3 that had passed on. So, but the ones that we had from day old, they would sleep on us. They would climb all over us, and so they love us, and they will come and peck your pants, and they want you to sit down, and they will sit on your lap. And even now, as almost 2-year-olds, they sit on your lap and they'll talk to you, and they want you to talk back. It is funny. And then they'll take a nap, and so they're, if we're outside, they're right by us. They're like puppies. It's really weird, but
that's so
I didn't know
sweet.
chickens. Yeah, I didn't know chickens had personalities, but they really
I didn't
do.
know that. I did
They
not
really have
know
their
that
own
about
personalities.
chickens.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, 8 children, 8 chickens. So, I want to ask about the kids. So you got, what's the breakdown? Boys, girls?
So we have 3 living sons and 5 girls, and then we had a 34-week stillbirth in 2011, and then I had and he was a boy, and then we had a 12-week miscarriage in 2017. So technically really 10 children, but 8 here with us. So it would have been 5 and 5.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's awesome. I mean, having a big family. My daughter, my youngest baby daughter, she has 5. She has 5 children that she had naturally, and then she has a stepson. So she's got 6 kids. And it's so unusual this day to see people having really big families like that. So we do have, on my Monday night show with the felines, there's Rebecca, and she also has a very large family. So that's pretty cool. It's unusual to meet anybody that has those big families these days, like they did back in the day.
Oh.
And then of course you said that you homeschool them. So so do you have like what made you want to do homeschooling?
Well, I was public schooled, when I was younger, I was public schooled, private schooled, then homeschooled. And then I went back to public school when we moved from North Carolina back to Wisconsin. I went to public school for my senior year, and I graduated when I was 16. And I just, going back into the public school then, and let's see, I graduated in 94. So I'm like 30 years graduated. And even then, it was not where I wanted my kids to be. And I mean, and then in this area, the schools, they're just so dark. They're just, they push down the morals and the values that we want to teach our children. And I understand that kids need to learn the real life and all of that. But when they're so fragile in their, when you're trying to ground them in your faith, whatever that is, kids are just mean and they're bullied. And I was bullied a lot. And so, and then with all the violence and the gangs and just all the shootings and everything, when our oldest was born, it was one of the biggest shootings had just happened when she was like a year or two. And I'm just like, by the time she's in kindergarten, these kids are going to be bringing Uzis to school. And then I was anti-gun, not anti-gun. I just wasn't I didn't want to be around guns. Now I'm like the most pro-gun female that there is. Like I carry, it just, but it took me all in my own time. Yeah. And I'm like, I saw that it's not the guns, it's the people that have them. And so, it just took a little bit for that to click. But we just really saw, for me, I was able to just move at my own pace. And that's why I graduated at 16. And so we wanted that for the kids. We wanted them to not have to spend all day in school and then all night doing homework. And we wanted those precious years to be with us and nurturing their love of learning. So it worked out really well because my boys would have never survived school. My oldest son has Asperger's, so he would have been in a special class. They would have tried to throw him on medication. It would have just been a nightmare. And this is just really wonderful because we can go on vacation in October when everyone's in school. And, we learn 24/7. So, and we can really nurture what they want. So my 15-year-old, she almost died when she was a baby. She had bacterial meningitis. So we spent 3 weeks in the hospital. And she almost died. She had a lot of brain swelling and stuff like that. And I'd never heard the word mortality more in my life than I did then. And so we didn't know what her complications might be. And she's perfectly fine. She's got a little bit of quirks and stuff, but her brain learns different. If she was in school, she's smart as a whip. I mean, she is smart, but she learns different. So it takes her a little bit longer. She's very hands-on. She's very visual. She's very artistic. So we pull in all the categories using art. And so she learns you can't do that in school. So that was, the other reason was being able to build, and I don't use any one particular curriculum. We try to stay classical, but we're really kind of an unschooling hodgepodge. And if one curriculum isn't working for someone, then we'll change it up because each of the kids are different. And so our philosophy is burn the book, not the child. And you can't do that in school. If they don't learn that one particular way, then they're labeled. And you just have to change maybe the way that you're speaking, that just with my son with Asperger's, we had a mentor for him, a good friend of ours. And when he just couldn't hear what we were saying, his mentor would basically say the same thing, but in different words that he could understand. And then it'd be like, oh, Mom, I'm really sorry that I argued about this because now I understand. And I'm like,
so that sounds that does sound in some ways like typical kid, they don't hear their parents, but they can hear somebody else for sure.
And
So I
so,
really
it
would like
just,
to kind of talk about, did your kids do a keto or a carnivore diet?
no,
No.
we did not. So my husband's also a type 1 diabetic.
Mm.
And when we first got married, way back when, they didn't have the insulins that they do now. So they
Mm-hmm.
had combo insulins. So it was like long acting and short acting all together.
Yes.
So you had
Yep.
to eat to the insulin. It wasn't like now where a type 1 diabetic can fast if they want to because they can just not take their insulin and they're okay.
Okay.
So he had to eat to his insulin, and our insurance didn't cover strips, so he wasn't testing. And there were a few times where he had like really low blood sugars, but I didn't know the signs.
Yeah.
And so he would be like up and walking around, but he wasn't verbal and he was acting really weird. And he
Mm.
would leave for work. This was like in the middle of the night because he worked swing shift. And he'd leave for work, and I one time he actually called me sitting in a gas station parking lot and said, "How did I get here?" And I had like
Yes.
we were pregnant with our first, and I had like no idea. I was like, "What are you talking about? I got you ready for work and you left." He didn't like his brain didn't kick on until he was sitting in the parking lot shoveling chocolate covered pretzels into his mouth. So he had driven
Wow.
to this gas station, gone in, bought something sweet, all with no comprehension.
Wow.
So, there were times where he would seize in bed. I had to call the fire department one time, and they came, and he woke up with an IV in his arm. So like we didn't know anything about diet. We were just told eat to the insulin. I've lived with chronic pain for my whole life. My body is very damaged from a lot of childhood trauma, and my back first went out on me at age 13. I
Oh my
bent over
God.
to pick something up and I collapsed to the floor, and I couldn't I had like a pinching in my back. And one time I almost got run over by the school bus because as I was getting out of the bus and I stepped down, I slipped on a little bit of ice and it jerked my spine just enough that it pinched everything. And I was like stuck on the side of the bus, but the driver couldn't see me. And so I'm like
Oh,
just trying to push myself back enough because I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed. I couldn't move. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to get run over by this bus. And so, like, all this time, right? No one's talking about diet.
mm-hmm.
Then my husband gets put on the newer insulins. So he's got the Lantus for his background insulin, that long acting. And then we get the Humalog or Novolog, which is the really rapid acting. And
Mm-hmm.
we're told count carbs. You need carbs, count carbs. And for our kids, we were told and my boys hated vegetables. Two of my boys hated vegetables. Like they would
Mm-hmm.
sit for hours and just sit there and not eat. They'd put it in their mouth and they wouldn't swallow it. And
Mm-hmm.
right, my mom was a nurse, so I was trained to listen to the doctors. And so the pediatrician said, no, they need these vegetables, so full of all of this and that. And so if they don't eat it, it goes in the refrigerator and it gets pulled back out for the next meal. And so
Yeah.
that's what we did. Like their poor little bodies were probably screaming, "This is bad for me. It
Right.
does not make me feel good."
Yes.
So it really ruined it gave them a bad relationship with food, especially
Mm-hmm.
my 21-year-old. Now he'll just eat junk and he's just a carbaholic.
Yeah.
But I didn't know then. And, I was busy trying to make sure that my husband didn't die. And he was busy trying to prepare me to be a single mom because he thought he was going to be dead by 40.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his A1Cs would go up into the 14s.
Oh my gosh.
And And then when I was pregnant with my 5th, so I was 26, 27. I spent 18 months, my whole pregnancy, and then after she was born, in physical therapy. And I was walking with a cane. Actually, for her baptism, I had a flare up where I couldn't bear weight on one side. So we had her baptism, and I was in so much pain, and I was doped up on Vicodin, and I had a standing prescription of Vicodin and Tylenol with codeine, and it would switch back and forth. And so there was not one single picture of me holding her for the baptism because I couldn't hold her. I would have dropped her. So the next week, once my flare was better, I made everyone redress up in the exact same clothes so that we could go back to church, and I could have some pictures with her in her baptism gown.
Yes.
And so it was, yeah, my body was just so broken. And, you know, through all that time, not one specialist that I saw said, let's check your inflammation. You're really inflamed. You know, what is going, no, it was just, let's throw Vicodin at this. Let's throw, you know, Tylenol with codeine at this, Percocet, and this is where you're going to be. And my mom struggled with mental illness her entire life. And the system never helped her either. And she was in a really bad car accident in 1995. And so it damaged her leg a lot. And so then she had chronic pain. And all they did was throw drugs at it. And then she got addicted to the pain pills. And we eventually ended up, then one of my other sisters ended up becoming addicted to the drugs because she would steal them from my mom. And then she started selling them. And we lost my mom to suicide in 2016. And all this time, while I'm in all this pain and I'm having all these pain meds, I just keep seeing my mom. And I'm like, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to end up like that. And because of my childhood trauma, I have anxiety, I have PTSD. And so I was like, I didn't want that. So life was a little bit of a mess. So yeah, my kids did not have any keto or anything that would be good. And if I could turn back the time, man, I would have changed things.
Right.
You know, I was just trying to be able to make sure they didn't run into the street, because my 21-year-old, when he was like 3, we were out front and I was letting them ride their bikes on the sidewalk. But I was having a flare up where I couldn't bear weight again. And he thought it was going to be funny to run away from mommy.
Oh no.
But I couldn't chase him. So I'm like hobbling, just trying not to fall onto the concrete. And all I could do was get to his back and shove him into the grass to keep him from running into the street.
Wow.
Because I couldn't like scoop him. And so then he's like, mommy, mean. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to keep you. There was a car coming, you know? And I was
my
like,
gosh. Scary. That's terrifying.
I know, it really was. So yeah, now my kids that are at home eat this way. And they feel so much better. My 25-year-old, she has to eat this way because of her mental. She, poor girl, inherited my anxiety and the Asperger's. And when she was in college is when it kind of all came out, and we almost lost her to suicide. And so she has to eat this way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. She has to, because if she doesn't, she can tell. And then we can all tell. We can all tell. So she's, you know, very diligent about keeping her carbs way down.
Smart girl.
no processed foods. And then my 23-year-old, I have to count because my two of my boys are 10 months apart. Um,
Oh.
my 23-year-old doesn't live with us, but he does eat this way. And so
Okay.
he's the middle of my boys. So we go boom, boom, boom with the boys. And he's the middle. He's the one that never really had issues with vegetables. He was like, whatever, I can take them, I can leave them. It doesn't matter. He would just,
Mhm.
eat whatever. But and he's very muscular, and he does like a lot of, he doesn't want to call himself a bodybuilder, but he really does.
Uh-huh.
He idolizes, I shouldn't say he idolizes, he fanboys Dr. Chafee. Okay. He
Who doesn't?
loves Dr. Chafee, right? I know. So he loves Dr. Chafee. And
Yeah.
so he eats pretty much carnivore. I mean, he can put away 9 burgers in a sitting. And he's
Wow.
got no issues coming over going, Mom, did you buy any burgers? And then messing up my kitchen and eating them
Yep.
all like in a sitting. He's like, I got to get my protein in. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
right. Good for
So
him. That's
yeah,
amazing. There's a
now they
comment
eat this way.
that's awesome. I love that so much, because they're old enough to make a decision and they're deciding
Yes.
to prioritize their health, which is absolutely awesome. But Sandra has some comments here about homeschooling, so I'm gonna put these up.
Yeah.
She said, I also homeschooled. I sent my daughter to Catholic school. It was a great school as far as grades. Their scores marks were above all the public schools, but religion class was lacking a bit.
Yep.
My daughter complained that religion class was too short compared to other classes. I
Good
was
for
appalled.
her.
Yeah, good for her. That's awesome.
Good
I
for
sent my daughter to
her.
Catholic school to learn the faith, but they were a bit lacking. I
Yep.
pulled her out after she made her first Holy Communion. Now she's a great Christian girl who loves the Lord and goes to mass during the week, just not just on Sundays. Oh,
That's awesome.
that is
I love that. I
awesome.
love
I love
that.
it. I
Yeah,
love it.
that is so awesome, Sandra. That's great.
Mhm.
That's that. Yeah, that's like well, my oldest is actually the organist at
Mm,
one of our parishes. So
okay.
we have an English mass parish, and then we also go to the Latin mass. And so we've
Okay.
got 2 parishes. So she does all the music and everything at Saints Peter and Paul, and the kids sing in the choir and everything there. And
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
so
she's
awesome.
always there. And yeah, that's great. I love it. My 19-year-old, when she was 16, almost 17, started a teen group at our church too, because she just felt that
Oh,
the
okay.
teens weren't being fed. And so our priest actually will
Good
come
for her.
and give them a spiritual talk, and then they play games and kind of hang out. But yeah, so I love it when the youth can be, brought in to the faith. And
Yes.
and that's what I mean. Like, you can, we have friends that go to a good Catholic school, but even there's so much public school mentality. And it's just
Mhm.
like, and you still have those cliques. Like, 15-year-olds will only hang out with 15-year-olds. And it's like,
Yep.
you don't have that in life where, when you're in a homeschool circle, all the kids hang out. There's no ostracizing. Well, I'm 15 and you're 13. So, excuse
Right.
me, get away.
Yeah.
And, so they just all get along, and age doesn't matter. And that's
Mhm.
how it is in real life. Plus, like, homeschooled kids can carry on conversations, and they can carry on conversations with adults. You don't
Yeah.
find that with most kids. You get like a 1 or 2 word answer, and they're just not comfortable with people outside of their age group. And
Right.
that's just not preparing them for, real life. And like,
Mhm.
my 2 teens that, so I have my youngest is 11, and then 15 and 17, so that are finishing up school. The 15-year-old and the 17-year-old run track with our little high school. Um, and then they do choir there at the music teacher's request, because they make up the majority of the class. There's only
Mhm.
5 kids in the choir.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
let them do that. If we were in Green Bay, there'd be no way that they would be doing anything. But my kids are strong enough now that they can go, and they're not going to put up with that crap. And, you
Mhm.
know, and they're very much whole food keto carnivore. They really try not to eat junk. They take pre-cooked bacon or whatever with them to their meats. And it's not
Yeah.
saying that they never get a burger with a bun, because sometimes they do. They
Mhm.
make those decisions and they pay for those decisions, and they
Right.
know that. But
Yes.
you know, they just, for the most part, you know, they know. And when they had a dietitian come in and talk to all the track kids and everything, and they were like, "Oh, you shouldn't do burgers. You should do this, and make sure that you get your canola oil in, and this and that." They knew enough to kind of just roll their eyes and come home and just be like, "Mom, do you know what they said?" And I was
I
like,
know.
"Oh my gosh."
It's
It was just
so
crazy.
hard. It is so
Yeah.
hard,
Yep.
sometimes when you think about all of the information that we're flooded with, that is just absolutely wrong. And,
Yeah.
we're really pushing uphill. So it's really great that you can pull your kids out and teach them what they need to know.
Yeah.
I have a couple of grandkids. So like I said, I have 11 grandkids. And of those, a couple of them go to private school and the rest go to public schools. And it's just, in public schools, there's just so many kids, and so they
Right.
have to do like a standard almost. Like, well, the
Yeah.
standard is we're going to teach in this way, and we really don't have the time to be customizing it for every child, which would be ideal,
Right.
right? So you can customize,
Yeah.
like it's like
Yeah.
my grandkids that go to private school, they get their education customized because it's a very small
Yes.
group of children.
Yep.
They're able to first of all see what's going on with this child and then
Yep.
focus on helping them in that area. So in
Right.
public schools, it's very difficult to do that. So,
Right, because they teach to the test. They public school teach, they don't they don't care if the child masters the material. They
right.
want them to score good on the tests because that's where they end up ranking. And I know I went to public school and I went to private school. I
Mhm,
always got in trouble in public school because I was bored and I couldn't move
mhm,
ahead. And so when I was in private school, my third grade teacher figured it out. Sherry would sit down and shut up and do her schoolwork and leave the other kids alone if she went to the sixth grade teacher and got work packets for me. So that was the
mhm.
deal.
Yeah,
Get your grade work done here so that I can give you your grades, and then I'll give you this extra stuff. Otherwise, I was bored. And
mhm,
but to I did, like, they had moved me ahead, and then they held me back because kids are mean. They don't want some little punk being 2 grades ahead because they
right.
feel like
Yeah,
you're showing them up. But I was so
mhm,
bored. But that teacher was a gem. She
yeah,
saw, instead of like labeling me as a troublemaker
mhm,
or trying to put me on medication because Ritalin didn't help, um, she found a way to circumvent the system, because even in private school they still have the system. She
yeah,
found a way to circumvent the system to help me survive school. you
yeah,
know
that's
and
awesome.
it's like, so yeah, I my kids are like, they get up of their own accord at like 6 and start their work, and then they're done by like noon. And my 17-year-old will be like, "Mom, I feel like I'm not doing enough schoolwork." I'm like, "Why is that?" Well, because the other kids, they go to school from 8 to 3, and then they still have 4 hours of homework. I'm like, "Do you want to?" I'm like, "You're already doing 10 subjects. Do you
Right.
really want to?" Well, no. I just feel, I'm like, "Just be happy." Yeah. Be happy
Mhm,
that you can be a kid. And she's like,
right.
"Okay." I'm like, it's
That's
so
right.
crazy.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And be happy that you have a mom and dad who can actually homeschool you and teach you the things that you need to know. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So that's
Yeah.
a key. So let's talk a little bit about how did you find keto, carnivore? What was your journey like toward going towards a proper human diet?
So I was actually very anti-keto.
Mm,
Um, yeah. So in 2010, we found a supplement company. God put it into our lap, called Neolife. And at that time, I was 58 years old, or 50 years, something like that. I don't even remember, but whatever. It was a very old company, has a pharmaceutical license, so everything is standardized. It's very pure. It's just whole food concentrates. And it truly is just whole food. Like the FDA doesn't even make them put keep out of reach of children on their labels because it's just food concentrates. And during that time, my husband had a colon cancer scare. They thought he
mm,
had colon cancer. So once we found out that he didn't have colon cancer, we just needed to fix his digestion. We were able to do that with Neolife. And again, no one had talked to us about diet. And so it was like, eat this great whole grain diet. So I was trying to make everything from scratch and everything was all organic and whole grain, but it was still high carb
yeah.
because no one said, don't do this. It was just eat this great diet and fill in the gaps with supplements. So that's what we were doing. But we couldn't get my husband's A1C down. And then
Mhm.
his eyes started hemorrhaging and he had diabetic retinopathy and he was in danger of losing his eyesight. It was really bad. He had multiple like ibuprofen injections to the back of his eyeball and
Yep.
lasers to cauterize the hemorrhages.
Yes. Mhm.
And so through Neolife, we actually were able to halt that and stop it. And his eyes actually started getting better. Like his ophthalmologist was really impressed. So that was in 2010. um, then in like, well, we lost our son in 2011, and my PTSD like hit the maximum, and my anxiety was really bad. And so I started working with my priest, um, and as we were, he really, really helped me, he saved me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
as we were like going through that, and like everything from my childhood just started coming out, and he equated it to having lived in a concentration camp. And so we got through that. And then in like
Wait a minute.
2013,
Wait, what did you just say? Let me just go. So you said, hold up.
right, yeah. So
Could
he
you?
equated my whole youth as
Wow.
having lived in a concentration camp. It was
Oh,
really bad.
wow.
So that's why my body is broken. Um, and so he in like 2014, 2015, we found paleo. And removing the grains and the legumes was huge.
Yep.
It helped my husband's asthma. Like we felt better. I had a little less pain. But it was number one, paleo is so expensive, in my
Mm,
opinion.
wow.
And it's compared to how we eat now, I should say. But it was also, I just felt so difficult. And I don't really know why it felt so difficult, but it just felt difficult to like keep up with.
Mm, mhm.
And but we did feel better, but it didn't help my husband's diabetes. And it was still
Okay.
really veg heavy, so it didn't help my boys that hated vegetables. Um, then we ended up having to foster my sister's two of my sister's kids. So at that time we had 10 kids in the house and you were getting subsidies because they were foster kids. So we ended up falling off of that wagon. But in the meantime, anytime anyone has any questions on anything child related or health related or anything, they always call me. And I have a nickname, Dr. Sherry. Had that nickname since 2004.
Mhm.
And there's good reason for it, because I keep getting asked, why weren't you a doctor? So people would call me up and they'd be like, this was right when the keto craze was happening. And unfortunately, I hadn't at that time researched, because I was underwater with pain and foster kids and just life in general. And I was like, stay away from keto. It's going to kill you. Just eat paleo. That's whole food. You want to take away the grains and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And in 2018, I had regained any weight that I had lost, and I was at the heaviest I had ever been. I'm only 5'1", a little over 5'1", and I
Mhm.
was 165 pounds. So that's fairly heavy for a short person. And
Right.
I
Yes.
I I like I wouldn't have pictures taken of me. There were some pictures snapped of me, and I was just like, oh my, just ugh, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was busting out of my 16s, and I didn't want to go to 18s.
Yep.
And my father-in-law had gone on a field trip with me down to the museum in Milwaukee, and my pants were cutting into my sides, and I was in so much
Oh.
pain. And so when we got home, I called my friend up and I said, what is it that you're doing? Because she had been losing weight and talking a little bit about this. Well, she had been following Dr. Fung. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. So I ordered his book, The Obesity Code, and I devoured it. And I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. It's the insulin. And I know all about, I thought
Yep.
I knew all about insulin, but I didn't know. I thought what I thought I knew, I really didn't know. I knew insulin was what was used to keep blood sugar down, but I didn't know anything else. And so as I'm reading all this, I'm just like, uh, wow, this is amazing. Now, I had insanely bad reactive hypoglycemia.
Okay.
My blood sugar would drop into the 40s. And I know
Wow.
this because my husband has meters laying around. So I would check. So my doctor told me, again, nothing was ever said about diet. I was
Mhm.
told you need to eat 6 times a day because that will keep your blood sugar level. And you need to keep raisins in your purse for if you have a hypoglycemia attack. So
Yeah.
I kept those little boxes of the raisins in my purse. There was a couple of times where I could feel it coming on, and I would have to whip into a McDonald's. By the time I would get up there to get my Coke, I was slumped over the steering wheel, just like trying not to pass
Wow.
out.
Oh my
So I'm
gosh.
reading, I'm reading Dr. Fung's book. Everything's making sense. I'm at my heaviest. My pain level is back up through the roof. And I just said, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And I said, keto is not going to kill me.
Right.
Keto is not bad. Everything that I had read, I hadn't read from experts. I had read from someone who had done it wrong and then blabbed their mouth.
Yep.
And I usually never say anything about anything unless I have like researched it to death. But that was the one time that I foolishly spoke before I had a chance to research it. And I
Mm.
have apologized and tried to make reparation for that.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. Just going to slowly start reducing the carbohydrates. I knew I was going to need to increase my salt intake because that was one of the things that I
Mhm.
had read. And I just started cutting out the snacks. And I didn't have hypoglycemia issues. And then I went to eating 2 times a day and just keeping my carbs low. And I didn't have hypoglycemia issues. And at that time, we were just like low carb. I was like, we're going to stay around 50 grams of carbohydrates or less. But it was all from whole food. We didn't buy none of that keto crap or anything like that.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so then before I knew it, I was doing 42-hour fasts. And I wasn't having hypoglycemia issues. And my
Wow.
husband came on the path with me. Like I told him, like, I have to do this. And, you know, he's like, yeah, I'll do it with you because it can't hurt me. Right. And so we just started feeling really good. And so I started taking courses. And then I became a certified ketogenic nutritional coach. And, you know, then we went, this was the end of October, beginning of November 2018. So, of course, right before Thanksgiving, we make this big lifestyle change. So we went to our grandma's house and we brought our own sausage stuffing. We brought our own keto pumpkin pie. We, you know, brought smashed cauliflower because then that's what we were eating. And I had made some almond flour type biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just kind of evolved and we were doing really good. Then 2020 hit and we kind of fell off. We didn't fall off all the way. So,
Okay.
but we did end up back into just like some of the prepackaged crap and it was right around that time we learned that our youngest has a gluten intolerance. So she can't eat gluten even if she wanted to. And
Okay.
then we moved out to where we are now. And I got plantar fasciitis so bad in my feet that even whole food keto like wasn't enough. I couldn't even walk for more than 5 minutes at a time. And so then I started binge watching Dr. Berry and joined his private group.
Yep.
And told my husband, I'm like, this was in October of 2022. And I just said, there still is something that is inflaming me. And again, no doctor at this point in time had ever said anything about diet or let's check your inflammation markers or anything like that. Yep. So there's something that's still inflaming me, and I'm just going to eat carnivore. I'll keep cooking keto for you, which really for us, that's carnivore plus adding a little veg. It's not, we just eat whole food keto. And that's why I don't like to label things. I'm like, we're just animal based. But at that time I was like carnivore. He's like, no, I can do that. We just like all as a family, just all of a sudden went completely animal based, mostly meat. And we'll still have some frozen green beans. We'll still have some tomatoes every now and then that we grow in our garden. But it's seasonal, you know. And my kids, I keep frozen berries for them because they're young and they're metabolically healthy, and that's okay. And that's, I think for them, that's appropriate for their proper human diet. That's just fine. And they eat them as desserts. I'd rather them eat strawberries with homemade whipped cream than cookies. Absolutely. And so within like 3 months, the pain in my feet was gone and I could start, you know, doing light exercise and stuff again. And so, yeah, we've just, you know, been at it. And so I started just kind of slowly coaching other people on just eating whole food and feeling better.
That is awesome. I mean, I've heard you say so many things already that you were dealing with. I'm just going to kind of run down this list. Chronic pain. So how is on your current way of eating, which is a primarily meat-based way of eating? How is your chronic pain?
Oh, I mean, like it's next to nothing. I'll get a flare up every now and then because, you know, things are human and like, especially when there's weather change. So I have my rib muscles ripped about 16 years ago. I ripped some rib muscles and they didn't heal properly. And so I'll
Mhm.
get spasming there. And so like last night was really bad with the spasming.
Yeah.
But you know, it was fine. I slept with I fell asleep with the heating pad on, it shuts off on its
Okay.
own,
Yeah.
and now I'm fine. So
That's
I
good.
was able to go out and take care of the chickens and everything. I did
Yeah.
some Pilates this morning, and so I mean, yeah, it's like night and day. My cane is packed away in the basement,
Oh,
just
that's
as that memory. Like this is
yeah.
this is where I came from, you know. And
Mhm.
there was one point in time where I didn't know if I was ever going to, you know, be able to get rid of that. Some days it
Right.
would take me 45 minutes to just get to the bathroom. I'd get like
Mhm.
stuck in the middle of the living room and it was just really bad.
Oh my
And so,
gosh.
yeah, take care of your body because it sucks to have a broken body.
Absolutely. So another one was anxiety. So are you
Yeah.
still dealing with anxiety at all, or has it been fully resolved on your meat-based way of eating?
As long as I eat properly, I'm good. I will
Yeah.
feel it start flaring up if I don't get enough fat. So I went out to Las Vegas for the for Dave Feldman's coalition science conference, and I went by
Mhm.
myself. And I roomed with someone I had never met. And you
Hmm.
know, you're in a room with a couple hundred people that you don't know, you've never met. I was by myself, and like you would have never known that I had PTSD or social anxiety.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
so yeah, so like
When I met
the
you so I
PTSD
met you at the
triggers are
Chicago
gone.
meetup. I would not have
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
you had social anxiety at all.
Oh yeah.
Never,
Yep.
never would
Yep.
have believed it.
Some some days some days would be really bad, like if and I'm a homebody. I don't like to leave my house. But like just to go to mass, you know, I would be in the bathroom a couple of times. If we were going to be going like Christmas shopping and we decided we were going to go to the mall, you know, there's a bathroom trip about, you know, 4 or 5 times during that shopping trip. 2020 and 2021 was particularly hard, um, just because of triggers.
Mhm.
Um, People with, you know, masking and things like that. That's a huge trigger for me. And so I would hit the bathroom a lot. And
Wow.
because that's how my anxiety would just like come out. Everything was just like, woo. Um, so yeah, most people would have like no idea
No,
whatsoever. You
I
know,
would never have thought that. You're so outgoing and friendly and just happy. I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting," you know? But
yeah.
I think that a meat-based way of eating can do that for sure. You know, we're hearing about all kinds of mental challenges being healed with a
Oh yeah.
carnivore diet. You know,
Yep.
Dr. Georgia Ead's book, which I'm in the middle of reading right now, is absolutely incredible and
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
the benefits of a meat-based or carnivore way of eating on mental health issues.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I just interviewed Dr. Chafee, and he was
Oh
talking
yeah, I
about,
saw that.
man, incredible stuff about autism.
Yep.
Just absolutely incredible thing. You know, something that you would not think would be impacted
Oh,
by
I know.
diet.
Speaking of autism, so first, when I was in Las Vegas, I had talked to my pastor prior because it's Lent, and so we were going to be
Hmm.
going out on Friday, and you know he knows about my anxiety and stuff, and so I had a dispensation because I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to get enough to eat at a restaurant and I can't eat fish. It's just disgusting. Ugh. But I can do shrimp, but shrimp isn't fatty. And it
Right.
like at home I can add other things. But if
Yeah.
you're at a
Well, you
restaurant,
know,
you
you
really
brought the
can't.
butter when we went out to dinner
I
then.
did. And you know what? So I brought a whole pound of butter on the airplane, right?
Yes,
But we
yes.
went out for picanha steak. And because I
Mm.
couldn't eat, it wasn't like an all you could eat. We split like 4 big plates. and I could have eaten more. So the next morning and most of the afternoon, my anxiety was like creeping up, but I was able to keep it at bay, but I knew I hadn't gotten enough fat. So
Yes.
at lunchtime, I was going to try and fast through lunch, but my anxiety was slowly going up. I went to Johnny Rocket and I got a burger patty and some bacon, and that really helped. And then we went to an all-you-could-eat Brazilian steakhouse. So that was perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I could tell I didn't get enough fat, and so my anxiety, because I was already a little bit anxious and excited, right? Because it was an
Yes.
amazing weekend. So it was like
Oh, that's
all this stuff,
incredible.
and I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep very good because I had pinched something in my
Oh,
shoulder, so my
no.
arm was all tingly, and it was like ah. So it was like all this stuff. So I know I needed more fat. So
Mhm, mhm.
it worked out, but yeah, the fat is so powerful. I have a good friend, and her son, she's got two boys. Her oldest has autism, and then her
Mhm.
youngest has a genetic disorder called EDS, and it has something to do with the cartilage, or it's a muscle type thing. And so he was always in a lot of pain, would hyperextend.
Oh,
This
wow.
poor kid just couldn't be a kid. He's only 11. So they finally got him
Mm.
into this clinic in Kansas, I think, called the Spiro Clinic. And the first thing that they do is this bogus allergy food testing, which
Oh,
is just junk.
okay.
And we had to talk back and forth, and probably 3 years ago, she had posted something on Facebook about starting her boys on a ketogenic diet. Well, apparently that didn't go anywhere.
Mm.
And so I respond, because they give him this huge long list of foods that he's allergic to. Most of it was stuff that he was currently eating, which is why it was on the list. But it was
Okay.
things like chickpeas and like all this inflammatory food. But then they had like eggs and stuff on there, and I'm like, well, if he just recently ate eggs, it's going to show up on this test. So I reach out to her. I'm like, hun, those tests are not reliable. This is, the inflammatory foods make sense. Remove them. And she said, I paid thousands of dollars to a holistic nutritionist that said this is what we're supposed to feed him.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, so we're talking, and she's like, I need you to help me.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
Spiro Clinic was great helping with the body, but they don't do nutrition.
Right.
And so the foods that they wanted him to eat, she could see right away, flamed him. They just inflamed him. And he started having lots of reactions. And I said,
Mhm.
does he feel good after he eats eggs? Yes, he feels amazing. Then don't take the eggs out.
Right.
So she switched him pretty much to straight carnivore. Like, I gave her some recipes. I gave her a link to, I'm like, these are kid friendly foods. And she's
Yeah.
like, my autistic boy gags at the thought of meat. He's completely nonverbal now. So she was able to find a way. I don't know how she did it, but she was able to find a way to get him to start eating meat. And
Wow.
now, right while he was down there, because she had him down there with them, all the child lived on chicken nuggets, beef nuggets, and she made some sort of carnivore Cheetos. And that's what
Mm.
he survived on. I'm like, if that's what he loves and that's what he's going to eat, feed him all he wants of that,
Right.
because it's going to help. So I'm real excited. They got to come home from treatment 3 weeks early
Amazing.
because of the diet change. And so it was just, I mean, the Spiro Clinic was wonderful for him. He gets to be a little boy again. His disease is in remission. So that's great.
Amazing.
And as long as they keep eating this way, and it would tear me up when she's like, well, this is a journey and we just have such a great tour guide. And I was like, oh, and I just
Oh,
like, but yeah, so I can't wait to have her on my channel. They were gone for 3 months. So she's kind of
wow.
got to get her sea legs
Yeah.
back under her. But yeah, and I just can't wait to see where this autistic boy ends up, going. And
Right.
even if he can just be verbal, if he
Yeah.
can just be a little verbal, that would just be a huge
Incredible.
blessing.
It would.
So
It would be incredible.
there's just so much.
So I know we're at about an hour. Do you have a little bit more time? I see that we have a question
I have all the time that you want.
Okay.
I got nothing on my
Super.
schedule.
All right, great. So let's take a look at this question that we have. So now being carnivore, do you still feel like you need a dispensation from the meat abstinence on Fridays, or are you just keto?
So during Lent, I did just want to clear it with my priest. Other Fridays, if I'm at home, I found that I love pan frying shrimp, and I can add more butter and things to it to bring that fat up.
Mhm.
But if it's outside of Lent, we try to be no meat. But if I feel like I need more fat, I will eat the meat. During
Yeah.
Lent, I try to be more strict because it's not that long, and it's like 6 Fridays. So I'll have more
So
eggs
is it
and
that
stuff.
you guys eat, I am not Catholic. I am Protestant, I guess I would say. But what do you usually eat on Fridays?
So on
During the
Fridays, just can be fish, just no fleshy animals. So,
Okay.
when I'm at
Mhm.
home, I can make a nice fatty tuna. And, I can make some carnivore noodles and have a tuna noodle casserole. I can scramble up some more eggs. Yeah, it's Friday is a day of penance for us. And so I used to be Protestant, and most of my family on my side is all Protestant, and I love all my Christian brothers and
Oh,
sisters.
yeah. Amen.
Does not matter.
Amen.
I'm just like, we just respect each other. And I know some people will say, Jesus died, now we don't have to do penance. And for Catholics, it's not that we're like, well, his sacrifice isn't good enough. It's that we're uniting our sacrifice with his, and it's an act of love for him. And because he died on Friday, we take that sacrificial penance and unite that with his. It's not that his isn't good enough, because it is the ultimate. It is the
Amen.
best that
Amen.
ever. But there's nothing wrong, because we're all part of the communion of saints, being able to then say, Jesus, I'm going to share in your sacrifice. So we do that on Fridays by abstaining from meat. And at home, it's easier because I can have all the eggs that I want. I can have all the shrimp that I want. But that particular Friday when we were away, I couldn't get all I wanted. So
Yep.
it was, I knew that. And there was another gal that I had met. She controls her epilepsy using high fat carnivore. And
Oh,
so
that's
she
what
showed me the email from her priest, and he's like, yes, you have dispensations on all Fridays, because it's medicinal. It's medicinal for her.
Right.
And for that Friday, it was really medicinal for me, as well.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so that's just that sometimes it's just medicine. It's just like if my husband has a low blood sugar and he has to eat something either before Mass or during Mass. Before you receive communion, you're supposed to be fasted for at least an hour. If he has to, have a glucose tablet or an egg or something like that, that's medicinal for him, and
Right.
it doesn't break.
That's
It does not break his spiritual fast, which is what it is. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I totally get it. We do, our church does spiritual fasting on Tuesdays and Fridays every week, and
Yeah.
also a 21-day fast. It's like an intermittent fast, though I wouldn't call it a
Okay.
full fast.
Yeah.
21-day fast, like a midnight to till noon or 3 or 6. But for people who have to take medications,
Yep.
they may not be able to fast as long, or they may have to have something with their medication. So it's definitely, people have to do what they have to do for sure for
Right.
medicinal purposes and make sure that they keep themselves healthy and safe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so let's see. I want to just ask about your so how did I meet you? How did I end up meeting you at the Chicago meetup? How did you end up there?
So I joined up to help support Carrie from Homestead How. I joined as a member on his channel because all of that goes to the documentary, which I'm super excited about. And they're doing awesome with that. Um, and so we were on vacation, actually. We were on vacation in the Dells, and he had a members only live. And so I hopped on, and that was the first that he told about the Chicago meetup. And I just
Yeah.
love Dr. Hampton. I
Oh
just
my
love
gosh.
Dr. Hampton.
Me
He is
too.
such a like just his whole persona. He just seems like such a honey, right? He's
Yeah.
just a doll, and you just want to eat him up. And so I was like, oh. So I went out. I told my husband, I'm like, I really need to go to this. Plus, I wanted to network because we're trying to grow our coaching business, and our heart is just helping to pay forward everything that other people have done, and just share. And so I'm like, I really want to go, and it's in Chicago, and it would just be great, and I get to meet that, and I'm going like a mile a minute because I'm so excited. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, go ahead, go. I'm like, I got to buy the ticket now. He's like, so buy the ticket. I'm like, are you going to come? He's like, no, I'll stay home with the kids. So it was just me. And then that weekend, such a bonehead. Sometimes I just like, so Wisconsin Dells is only about a half an hour from Montello, where Carrie is. And
Oh, wow.
I had been trying to get to meet him in person. I knew he was going to be at the theater. So we had like 3 hours that some of the family was gone, and our youngest was not feeling well. So like we were just kind of staying in. And I said to my husband, do you mind if I just drive to Montello? He's like, well, whatever. I don't care. Whatever. There's nothing going on. You're just going to sit here. And so I get in the car and I drive to Montello. I didn't have Carrie's cell phone number. I didn't, I tried emailing him before, and I was like, I knew they were going to be opening up because it was on a Saturday. So I get there, and Jen is there. His wife was there, and his daughter was there, but he wasn't.
Oh my
He had
God.
gone home to take a nap. So I like went in and I introduced myself to Jen, and he was going to be coming back. So like we started chatting, and then he gets back. So I was there for like an hour, hour and a half. And yeah, so I'm just like this crazy lady that just drove to the theater.
Oh no.
And so then I was like, I'm coming to the meetup. And so yeah, it was November 11th. That was when the meetup was. And
Yes.
I don't know, everyone just kind of started chatting with everyone, and we had that phenomenal dinner. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was just like really cool. It was like a whirlwind 24-hour trip because I came down
Yeah.
Friday evening, and the meetup was Friday, and then, or was it I don't remember if it was, or it was on Saturday. Yeah,
I think it
it was
was
on
because I
Saturday
came
because
up on Friday too. Yep.
I came down. I just drove down Saturday morning, and then or I left Saturday morning, got to the hotel where I was staying, then went to the meetup, then slept, and then got back in the car on Sunday morning, hit Mass in Milwaukee. And actually, I ended up hitting Mass in Sheboygan because I went with my in-laws. And
Nice.
then came home. So it was like literally less than 24 hours that I was gone. But it
Wow.
was just amazing, and to get to meet Dr. Hampton in person. And
Oh my
at
gosh.
at dinner, he was so sweet. He let me record. He let me record him saying hi to Zoe, my youngest, because she's a huge fan. And oh, thanks, Rhonda. She's a huge fan, so he did this sweet little message to her because she was so sad that she couldn't come with, because she
Yes,
really
I
wanted.
know.
She loves Carrie and Emma, and so
Oh
they
yeah.
all did a little video too. So she woke up to like
Oh
these
my
great little
gosh.
videos on her little chat. So she will
That's so
binge
sweet.
watch. She'll binge watch YouTube videos with Dr. Barry and Carrie, and
Mhm.
she will watch Dr. Hampton. And she comes into the bathroom the other day and she goes, "Mama, did you know meat is the only food that doesn't rot in your colon?"
Good
She
girl.
said, she goes, "Vegetables rot in your colon, and that's what makes us gassy." And I was just
Yes.
like,
Smart
"You've been
girl.
watching Dr. Barry again, haven't you?" She said, "And Carrie."
Yes, yes,
I was
yes,
like,
yes.
"Oh, I told Dr. Barry that when we were in Las Vegas, and he laughed so hard."
That is
It was,
hilarious. That's awesome. Good for her.
yeah.
She's gonna grow up with the right knowledge that she needs to have about food and diet and how things work. I love it. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
awesome. And it was the meetup was absolutely fantastic. And I know that there's been more meetups since then, but that was so incredible. That first one was, I'm so glad I had a chance to be there for the very first one. And
I
Dr. Hampton,
know. It was
he's a
amazing.
gem. He is a gem.
Yeah.
So, Sandra has a scripture. I have to put the scripture up. Colossians 1 and 24. Now I rejoice in my sufferings for your sake, and in my flesh, I'm filling up what is lacking in Christ's afflictions for the sake of his body, that is the church. Amen.
Yep. Amen.
Thank you for
Amen.
sharing
That's
that.
right.
So,
Yep.
Sherry, I'm going to share your channel. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what's going on? I'm just going to bring it up really quickly here. Let me get to YouTube here.
So on my channel, I try to like focus on just, I try to educate, because like that's
Mhm.
where I'm a nerd's nerd, okay? And so I will do book reviews and things like that. Like when I
Fantastic.
find something, I deep dive and then I share what I've learned. So like
Mhm.
right now I'm doing that with iodine and stuff, because
Nice.
it's it's just huge, and we don't realize it. But so I have that. I really try to be educational, but I try to focus on family, and instead of just like one person just doing this to reverse something, and I hate saying like just doing this, I
Mhm.
I try to share in everything, my YouTube channel, my personal Facebook, that this is our life. This is a
Right.
lifestyle. This
Mhm.
is this is for the whole family. And because I firmly believe if we can start teaching kids how to eat properly, and it doesn't have to be completely carnivore, but just being like whole food and keep those carbohydrates low and teach
Yes.
them how the body actually works, then it will just become a norm and we won't be having to try and reverse things.
Right.
And so my biggest thing people will say is, well, I can't, number one, I can't afford to eat the way that you eat. And so I try to
Yeah.
come up with recipes and things to show that, you can combine real whole food one ingredients into a filling meal, and
Mhm.
it's not anything more expensive than if you were using crappy ingredients. Plus, you're going to eat less, and you're going to be fuller longer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my heart is with the channel, is trying to find fun recipes, keep it real. Like, we eat some sweeteners, and we're not sugar addicts here.
Okay.
And so it's not like I can have a cream cheese roll and it has a little bit of sweetener in it, and it doesn't
Mhm.
send me looking for more.
That's
And for
great.
my kids, I feel like letting them have a sweet, a cream cheese roll that has a little sweetness in it,
Mhm.
will keep them from going down that donut aisle, or
Right.
because they're not feeling deprived. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like it's that balance. And like one of the gals that I'm coaching, she eats strawberries every day, and just
Okay.
having the strawberries every day kept her from having any cravings, because she is a sugaraholic and she fully admits that. So having those berries was enough that she doesn't feel the need to have that other sugar. And so for her, that's great. And so that's just kind of where I am like, everyone comes to their proper human diet from different roads. And so I want to meet people where they're at, and not just shove one um, dogmatic idea at them.
Mhm.
Because if you do that, then you're going to lose them. And I would rather help someone be whole food keto and try to make it as, like, let's focus on your protein. And if you want some veg after you've had your protein, that's great. If you want some berries and you feel good with that, that's great, if you're meeting your goals. But if we beat people over the head with, you have to be just strict carnivore and you can only eat beef and you can't ever have a sweetener, and I mean, we just,
Yeah.
with my 18-year-old, she's 19 now, for her birthday party, I made a cake. It was all animal based. It had allulose in it, but it used meat flour. There was no nut flour in it. It was
Wow.
um, egg, cream cheese, uh, allulose. Um, let's see, the meat flour. I have the recipe written, and then it was a butter cream cheese frosting, but it was
Yeah.
all animal
Sounds
based. My husband's whole family is type 2 diabetics. So it's something that we were all able to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel like they were deprived on their birthday. Um, no one was made to be weird, and everyone thought that the cake was professionally made.
Wow.
And, it was completely my recipe. So it was a win-win. Now, you might
Yeah.
have some of those staunch carnivore zealots that I might lose my carnivore card. Oh, well, I really don't care. This is what
There
works
is
for
no
me and my
carnivore card,
family.
so there
Got
isn't
it.
one. So
That's right. Yeah,
it's okay if you
exactly.
lose
I'm
it.
like, this is 98% of the time we're fully meat-based. If 2% of
Mm-hmm.
the time we have an animal-based cream cheese roll with a little bit of sweetener in it, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah.
And it's, everyone has to make their own decision. And as long as you
Yes.
are all whole food, not buying crap from the store, not counting net carbs, you know what? I'm going to meet you where you are, and I'm going to help you achieve your goals. And so that's my passion with the YouTube channel and
Yeah.
my website, which is, it's so lacking, but it's tax season, so I don't have much time to put
I
into anything right
understand.
now.
Yeah. I'm yeah, I do taxes. So I do taxes
So
for my family.
you know,
So I feel your pain. I'm trying to get
I know.
done. It's just
Yep.
like time
Oh,
is
I
going
know.
so fast. Yeah.
I
So
know.
after tax season, I can do more videos. I can work on my website. I can put up a store. I can do all the things that I want to do. But right now, all I can do is taxes and work.
Yeah, exactly. I know my youngest came in today and she's like, "Mama, when are we gonna do?" She made up this bacon pizza, so she makes a crust out of bacon, and then she puts
Oh,
the we get a really clean pizza sauce and everything, and so she's just tickled with it. She calls it her bacon pizza, and she's like, "When are we gonna do the video for my bacon pizza?" And I was like, "After tax season."
right.
After tax
100%.
season,
Yes,
not
indeed.
until.
Right. Well, Sherry, this has been absolutely fantastic. If you could just have one thing to say to everybody, what would be on your heart to share? One final thought.
Don't get stuck on the dogma, and don't wait until you know everything. Like, just start somewhere. If it's just cutting out bread and pasta and that's what you start with, at least you're starting. Don't get paralyzed by having to do it right and know all the rules. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Thank you so much, Sherry. It's been really great seeing you again. Honestly, I'm just so thankful that you decided to come and be on my Women of Wisdom series. I love what you're doing with your kids and, the way that they're
Thank
growing
you.
up with the right mindset about food and eating. It's such a blessing, truly, because really, so many of us don't have that same story, right? Where the
Right.
kids they're going to have their lives will be changed just because they've had the experience of knowing what makes their body feels good. And so I'm really, really proud of you for that. And, it's
Thank
just
you.
really awesome what you're doing there. I love what you're doing on your channel. And also, I'll be looking for the video with the young lady with the child with the two kids with autism, and I
Yeah.
think it's with ESD. I'll be really looking for that video because I'm interested to see, the benefits of this, the mental health benefits of what this diet has to offer is absolutely incredible. And I think we're just scratching the
Oh, yeah.
surface of all the things that are going to be healed through a proper human diet. So,
Oh, yeah.
if you are interested in being interviewed or coming on to my channel to be on the Carnivorous Grama Speak series or the Women of Wisdom series, I would love to have you.
Hmm.
So I'm putting my email address up here. You guys can email me. This is my email address. Let me know if you want to come on. We'd be happy. You don't have to have a YouTube channel, just so you
No.
know.
Yeah.
Everybody
Right.
doesn't have
Exactly.
one yet. So you don't have to have a YouTube channel, but I would love to have you on and we could tell your story because every single story is a part of the major story of what's going on with this carnivore community and with the proper human diet. So I really appreciate you guys being here tonight. Thanks again, Sherry.
Thank
We'll see
you.
everybody next time. Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye.